Hello everyone, and welcome back to DMG. It's Pride Month. I'm queer, in case you hadn't noticed, and I see a lot of my audience is as well. I see you, I appreciate you, you are loved. So, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. It's also been nearly 4 years since I started this channel, and clearly, I've changed a lot and my content has gotten a whole lot better as well. So, to celebrate Pride Month, I have a very special repair for you today. Actually, it's not a special repair. It may not even be that interesting. Just the name of the thing I'm fixing is really funny. It is the Magnavox Gaytime clock radio from, I think, like, early 60s. Of course, you couldn't release something called Gaytime nowadays. That would be pretty funny. But even in the 60s when it came out, it didn't really make a lot of sense either. Because the word gay, of course they were shooting for the definition that is synonymous with, like, jovial or lighthearted even, perhaps. Just fun and silly. But the word gay had been used to mean homosexual for decades by the time this came out in the 60s. Gaytime was not Magnavox's only naming blunder. One of the TVs that I actually use as my video monitor, it is Magnavox branded, and it is called the Escort. They had a whole line of little TVs called the Magnavox Escort. And that sounds fine, it's a cute name, until you use it in a sentence, and you say something like, I got an Escort on eBay for 30 bucks. Then you end up saying something you really didn't mean to. Anyway, that out of the way, I've got the Gaytime on the table here, ready to work on it, ready to diagnose its issues, but first I'm gonna put in some footage of me opening the box, my initial impressions. Alright, well, let's go ahead and give this a preliminary look. Sounds like a tube or two came loose during shipping. Hopefully they're okay. That is a ridiculously huge plug. Why the hell is it so big? And there it is. Gaytime. So it's in a rather nice plastic case. It looks like the time set mechanism for the Telecron has been replaced with this piece of rubber for whatever reason. It still works fine though. Oh, well, okay. We're gonna pretend like that didn't happen. Definitely looks as though this whole front section slides out from the plastic case. This is the best insulated set that I've ever seen. Oh, taking out the screws might help. Let's see what tubes we have while we're at it. BA6, AV6, yeah. So this is definitely a mid to late 50s All-American 5 set. You've got a 12BA and 12BE6 pair, 12AV6, 35W4, 50C5, ELEC. I wonder what ELEC stands for. We will find out, because that's not a 6th tube. That would exceed the 120 volt summed voltage of all the heaters if that was a 6th tube. So I do wonder what that will be. Yep, as I figured. What are you? Oh, that's a Magnavox tube, actually. That's a 12BA or BE. Yeah, this is a 12BE6 that fell out during shipping here. Actual Magnavox branded tube is pretty neat. And there's a screw that was just rattling around on the inside there. Very exposed Telecron mechanism. That looks really neat. Usually you don't see them that prominently. Usually they're hidden behind something. Is this supposed to... No, that's not supposed to be there. Looks like maybe it's supposed to be mounted there, but the plastic broke. I do believe that is what is supposed to happen. This capacitor is going to need to be replaced. Wow. Hold on. That's the rectifier. This rectifier looks pretty different than the other 35W4s that I have. That's neat. I have replacements for all of these tubes. I have 3 complete functioning sets of replacements for every tube in here. So if these do have an issue, I can replace them. Let's see what else. Alnico speaker, also from Magnavox. All the tubes and the speakers are from Magnavox, so all of these tubes are original. That's really awesome. I always love finding All-American 5 sets, or really any tube thing, with every single tube original. Oh, and that's going to be real easy to solder. Perfect. I'll just have to pull it out a little bit. Alright, so it's a 70-30 dual run capacitor. So one side of it is 70 microfarads, and the other side is 30. I have a suitable replacement for that. I think I have like a 30 and a 50 or something, and that should just be a drop-in replacement. 2 tunable inductors, very standard, shouldn't be difficult. Output transformer on the board. Wow. Usually the output transformer on these All-American 5 sets from the late 40s through the late 50s, usually they're on the speaker. Zenith did that, Motorola did that, even like the Chinese and Japanese brands that started manufacturing some of the parts and boards for these sets put the output transformer on the output, on the speaker. Alright, so overall, it's in good shape. Oh, I just realized the telecron mechanism is actually sideways. Usually the way these are oriented, the transformer is up on the top. They're rotated 90 degrees. Usually the transformer's up on the top. Oh, and that is a B model rotor, the Telecron B model rotor. The H is a lot larger, and they're brass or bronze, so they have this kind of gold color. This is much smaller, it's silver, so definitely mid to late 50s. Yeah, overall this is a really good condition, really clean set, and it should be really, really easy to repair. Whoa! Hold on. Is that really the date code 1164? Wow! Because that is very, very late for an All-American 5 radio. Transistors had been around for over a decade then. Well, I guess that explains why this is so sophisticated, you know? They'd figured out all the issues with All-American 5 tube radios by 64. Like, for example, the fact that it's really easy to electrocute yourself with one of these. So therefore they put it in this, this very comprehensive plastic case, so it's more difficult to do that to yourself. So this may actually be a whole lot newer than I thought. A whole lot newer than most All-American 5 radios, at least. Only 61 years old. Wow. Okay, so now that you've seen that, I'm back here. I have the lovely Gaytime spread open for us right here. So this is indeed a Telecron Model B rotor, as I thought. It's a chassis from the 60s, early 60s. So I actually haven't plugged this in yet, and I'm going to use my unsafe cord to do so. The cord is always integrated into the back of the radio cabinet on these old All-American 5 sets because there's a significant electrocution risk if you run these open, even more than there would be with any other appliance, because most of the metal parts you see actually have current running through them, so it is unwise to touch them. So I'm going to plug in this cord. Don't run anything with tubes in it open unless you really know what you're doing. We have, oh! Well, I guess the radio's switched on. We have heaters, and it looks like the Telecron's moving. I see its little gears, and oh, you've got sound. Okay, so since the switches on the front don't really work, I had to just unplug it. It's not picking up any radio signals. It is picking up interference from nearby digital things though, so that's why you get that kind of wah 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 sound on the audio. That's probably from my phone, actually. This is a Pixel 8a, and it has the worst, like, EMI shielding of any device I have ever seen, bar none. Might be from the motors in the tape deck of the mini DV camera as well. Anyway, that's a really good sign that it's picking up at least something, because that means that it at least mostly works. So the main thing that's going to need to be replaced is this capacitor. I think I mentioned that it might be old enough to still be a wax-filled capacitor, and those do not stand up to aging at all. I do have a box of tubes, a lot of them, and well, I know the rectifier works. The rectifier, because the heaters are all getting power, and the yeah, that's the rectifier and the amplifier. So there's audio and the tubes get hot. So that rules out two of them as being broken. Just to eliminate variables, I'm gonna go ahead and replace all of the original IF tubes. That's the 12BA and BE. And might as well swap out the 12AV as well while we're at it. Now, what I really love about vacuum tubes is they all look a little bit different. So I do believe this one, this 12AV6, may have been replaced at some point because it looks like it's from a different series than the rest of the tubes. The printing on them is a little bit different. So this 12AV6 is either not an original tube or it is the only original tube. That's unlikely though. Let's see. We're going for a Zenith 12BA, a RCA 12AV, and a Motorola. That's also no. BE. Okay. So we've got a Zenith BA BE pair and a RCA 12AV6. Okay, well, I had to go and get the back that has the listed tube placements on it. Perfect. Okay, so the thing I was asking about earlier that's labeled ELEC on the like mini schematic on the bottom, so that indicates the transformer, and that indicates the, I believe, the air capacitor for tuning. And ELEC is that capacitor. It might be an early electrolytic capacitor then. So basically it'll still suck. Regardless of the chemistry, it'll still suck, and it'll need to be replaced. What else? Yeah, that's it. So, with swapped tubes, I may as well try and plug it in again. Alright, here goes. Yeah, that's the capacitor. Oh, No, I didn't fall. That doesn't count. So we've got a couple options. If it's completely flat, it could just be bypassed, but I really don't think it's like completely open. The circuit's clearly still closed. So it'll need to be fully desoldered. Well, this ought to be a pretty painless task. Capacitor is pretty easy to identify. It has absolutely gargantuan leads. And they come off the side of the capacitor instead of right out the bottom. Let's go ahead and pump up our... You can't see shit. I'm not showing you anything. There we go. Okay, now you can see a little better. That's also probably too much of me, but sorry, okay. This is lead solder. It's gonna melt like butter when I give it more heat. Usually I go up to about 680 for this stuff, because even though the solder melts super easily, still a huge surface area on the pins of these old capacitors. See a little melt. There we go. Okay, it's starting to come out. Hey, yeah, it's Pride Month. It can come out. And then I do believe that the other lead of this capacitor, yeah, there it is. Found you, little guy. Or quite big guy, actually. I don't know why it looks like that. Why does it have that big protruding piece? Yep. Oh! Oh, because there's a wire soldered to the capacitor. What the hell? Oh, it's off the telecron. There's a extra wire. So, that's so weird. What? Okay. I see what they did with the circuit here. So, all of the switching on and off of the radio part, all of the control of the tubes happens through the telecron clock. So, yellow and black, those are the two sides of the AC line. So the yellow and black are the two sides of the AC line. The black is usually not connected to the board at all. So only when the clock says, yeah, go ahead, turn the radio on, does the black then run into the red, which goes into the capacitor. And then the 70 and the 30 is how that gets to the board. So that's actually a really nice circuit design. That's going to be easy to work with. That'll be super easy for what I'm about to do next. Oh, perfect, and it's labeled really nicely on the capacitor. So, A is the common negative, so that's where the red runs in. The 70 is B, the 30 is C, and 70 is B, and the 30 is C. So the pins are very nicely labeled. Not all of them are like this, and yes, it's a wax-filled capacitor. That is in fact what this is. So you can see it's a paper tube with just wax like stuffed in there. This board probably won't take writing very well, but I'm gonna at least try and label the capacitor values on the board. Is that solid core? Yep. Wow, solid core. Okay. Now these cheap little jumpers are not very safe to run AC 120 through for an extended period of time. But I'm doing this for a very short period of time, so I don't think I'll die just yet. I have these capacitors that are like the size of a small car. We're gonna use these for now. I obviously will not be able to actually fit these into the case when I put it back together, but they will be decent temporary substitutes. So the common negative of the capacitor is actually connected to a big ground plane down here. So I'm going to, so that's where I desoldered the capacitor. It looks like there's an adjacent pin on this plane, so I'm going to clip it there. That should work just fine. Should maintain the same in the circuit. And then I'll make this I'll make that pin the collector for the capacitors. That'll be the common. So now what? So 70 is gonna go there, and the 30 is gonna go here. So I've actually got a 50 and a 30, but we will make do. But I think this one does connect to the same plane on the board, the same trace, so I'm gonna connect it there. And then the 30, I'm going to hook up to wherever the 30 goes. Oh, caught a mistake. So actually this is the 30. Huh, that's the 30. And I desoldered the 70 up here, so I'll clip the 50 up there. This is a fucking mess. This sucks. Okay. This might explode. Okay. Alright. Heaters are on. That's a really good sign. Nothing going wrong yet. Well, that fixed it. Swapping in those two capacitors solved the entire problem. So, I will find a cleaner way to integrate these into the case. Yeah, sounds like an All-American 5. This will get exceptionally loud, I can tell. And yeah, tuning works fine, picks up great signal. Perfect, and I'm amazed that it didn't explode. Okay, well, I'm really happy with that. I was not expecting it to work so quickly, and I didn't have full confidence in my capacitor setup here. Turns out all it really needed was desoldering the push-pop and swapping these in. I will find replacements of similar spec that can fit inside the case, because there's no way that it's going back together with these two. I'll find a smaller 70 and 30 that are closer to the original size. I do have a 50-30 here, but this is also like a 40-year-old at minimum capacitor. I think it might even be 50 years old. So I don't, like, it still tests within spec on a low DC voltage, but I don't want to swap it in. I'm not fully confident in it. So I'll just buy a new replacement. I did accidentally snap the antenna wires. That's my fault. So these Magnavox tubes, nice. These Magnavox tubes actually sound notably different than the Zenith. That's something you get with analog equipment. Okay, I'm back after a couple days. I've gotten two new capacitors, a 30 and a 70 of significantly smaller size. I really hate that you can't just go to Radio Shack anymore and like get good quality capacitors instantly. We've got our board, and all I should have to do is solder these in. I still haven't figured out what to do about the knobs. I'm thinking of filling them with epoxy and then sticking them back on the shaft so they mold to the screws. But anyway, so this 70 capacitor, I've gone ahead and put some wires on the bottom so that they basically function as leads. And I can just stick it down into the board. I pulled out solder and then I lost it. Okay, there's one lead on the 70. I'll give you a better look. There's one lead on the 70. And then I was thinking of using this one as like the common, the one that has the two wires on it. Hence why I've attached two wires. Wow, okay. So those are actually some really good joints there. Yeah, that's real nice. Okay, perfect. So this one I'll stick straight into the board, and then the 30 capacitor, which by the way, is manufactured by Anhui Safe Electronics Co. Thank God I didn't get the capacitor from Anhui Dangerous Electronics. That could have been a disaster. So glad they separated the two. Anyway, I'm just gonna stick this one straight into the board, and then this wire sticking out to the side is what I will solder one side of the 30 to. Oh, right. And I'll also need to solder the red wire here to the 70. I didn't think about that. Or, no, it doesn't have to be into the 70, it just has to be into the common ground somewhere. This 70 cap I did specifically purchase due to its size. It was the best one that I could find that would like fit exactly or nearly exactly in the spot on the board that the original capacitor occupied. Alright, so our new 70 is now fully soldered in. I'm going to want to add an adhesive or something to secure it to the board so it doesn't rip out, because just the solder won't hold it for very long. And it looks like there's a spot on the board. There's an empty pin hole that I can loop a zip tie through to secure this capacitor over here. This space on the board is pretty perfect for holding it. So with this wire connected, it should still be able to just plop right there. Perfect. And then the 30 microfarad wire will just go into the board under that other capacitor that I've soldered. For the power supply stuff in these old radios, you can actually get away with buying cheap caps. ESR and ripple does not matter. And if you look at all the other caps in here, they're rated plus or minus 20%. So the tolerances in this old stuff is extremely loose. It does not matter that much. So you can save a few bucks by buying cheaper caps, and it will not affect the sound at all. That's through the board, and we'll just solder this final cap, and it should be good to go. Should be fully operational after this. Whew. Okay, that should be it. This should work now. All right, we've got heaters. Oh. Seems to work great. That's fantastic. It sounds bad because it's like the signal going into the transmitter isn't very good. So this radio should sound a whole lot better than that when it's got a better quality input. And now all there is just securing these caps to the board and figuring out what to do with the knobs. So that's fantastic. I'm so glad that this is all sewn up and working nicely. I did zip tie the antenna back into place off camera to secure that. Yeah, there's an unfilled hole for a tube. I'll need a smaller zip tie. I mean, we have a ridiculously long twist tie, it looks like. This is, of course, metal, so I don't want to use it for too long. I'm worried about that shorting something if I keep it for too long. So this like bread tie will be a temporary solution until I get zip ties tiny enough to fit through that diameter hole. So yeah, we're gonna do that for now. And that's pretty good. I might still want to glue it down to keep it from wobbling. But that's actually pretty solid. That's gonna be nice. That's gonna hold up well. And of course I'm gonna glue this capacitor down. Speaking of gluing, I'm gonna figure out what to do with the faceplate, but first I need to, well, I don't need to, but I may as well, since we're done inside, I may as well slip this back on again. Sometimes getting like tube stuff to plug back into its security plug in the back is very bothersome. These safety mechanisms are of course a good thing so people won't hurt themselves, but getting the socket on the board socketed back into the socket on the back is usually unpleasant. Oh, did I get it? I think I got it. Okay, perfect. That should be back into the interlock. I'll plug our little transmitter back in, make sure we've got power and all that to the tube still. Perfect, okay. So, it's running. That's fantastic. Yeah, okay, that's really good. However, I still need to figure out what to do with these knobs, because it looks like for some previous repair, these metal pieces were put inside the knobs and like clipped onto something on the shaft. And these do need to stand up to quite a lot of force. These are much harder to rotate than you think. You actually just can't do it with only the shaft and your bare hands. So these knobs are absolutely required, and when fixed, they do need to stand up to a decent amount of force. Yeah, okay, so I am just going to need to purchase new knobs of the same like shaft size, because unfortunately these won't come out. Like the metal part that the previous owner or a repair person at some point in time jammed into there, unfortunately it just won't come out at all. So I am gonna need to purchase new knobs, I'm gonna go ahead and call this repaired since electronically it works great. And if I have to, I can drill out the little holes in the faceplate a little tiny bit more. There is a little bit of wiggle room there. I looked through the knobs that I had, and unfortunately I don't have any that fit this shaft size, so I don't have a drop-in replacement as of right now. But I think I might go ahead and wrap up the video here because we have a working clock radio. Let me know if you want to see more restorations of like super old stuff like this in the future, because I personally really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you enjoyed watching it as well. But yeah, that's where I'm gonna wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll come back again if you enjoyed it. And once again, happy Pride Month.